This is Tom Foreman, a correspondent at CNN who recently taped a report about The Real Food Show, which is hosted by the Health and Human Services Secretary. And let's just say that Tom's grasp of basic arithmetic and grocery shopping is questionable at best.
Health Secretary's new reality show pushes healthy, affordable eating with sides of dubious claims about the food industry's science and public wellness.
The dietary guidelines put Fruit Loops at the top of the food pyramid.
Of course, Tom Foreman doesn't explain why the claim was dubious, but that would take too much time away from intentionally missing the entire point of the video just to generate manufactured outrage.
But it's also the math that doesn't add up in this cooking class, especially when the secretary and his guest chef whip up crispy salmon cakes with apple, white beans, and green salad.
So the servings of each of these, we asked to keep it under $5.
That's the pitch, and prices fly by, backing the idea of a family-sized meal for a bite-sized budget.
The premise here is completely straightforward. They are calculating the cost of the ingredients actually used to make the meal, demonstrating that healthy eating doesn't have to break the bank once your kitchen is stocked with basic staples. Get ready, because CNN is about to completely forget how basic grocery shopping and cooking works.
I am on my way to the store. But when we started buying ingredients used in the show, even going for the lowest prices at a big competitive chain, the cost heated up fast.
25.
This was the cheapest frozen wild-caught sockeye salmon we could find, the closest to what they are using. They priced theirs at $8.99. The cheapest we could find, even with the deal from the store, was more than $24.
So where is this deal exactly? Couldn't tell you. Because he's framing it this way to imply that if you, the average shopper, went to the store without this supposed magical CNN discount, that it would be even more impossibly expensive.
Now, the greens mix, that was about the same cost. So were the eggs on a per egg basis, but that's the trick here, because they're only pricing that one egg out of the carton.
Yes, Tom, that's how recipes work. If you order a 2-egg omelet at a diner, they don't charge you for the entire carton just because the chef had to open one. But what's next? Are you going to expense an entire cow just because a recipe calls for a splash of milk?
And that gets worse with other things.
Oh no, let me guess. The recipe called for a pinch of salt, so you went ahead and bought a 3-pound box of it just to artificially inflate the bottom line. Oh he did. Seriously, what the f***? Does Tom know that smaller sizes exist?
For example, this red onion. They say they only spent 8 cents on this because that's how much they used. Getting the whole onion cost us more than $1.
Again, Tom is deliberately confusing the cost to stock a pantry from scratch with the cost of the ingredients actually used in a single meal. If you buy a whole onion for $1, use one slice, and then throw the rest in the trash, that's a you problem, Tom.
And look at this. This is the avocado mayonnaise. They priced this at 40 cents because they were only using a couple of tablespoons. To buy the whole thing cost us more than $11. They're only pricing parts of it. And grocery stores don't sell things that way.
No because grocery stores aren't restaurants. They sell you ingredients in bulk, so you can store them for future meals. Unless Tom plans to throw away a nearly full $11 bottle of mayo after making exactly one batch of salmon cakes, this math is entirely fictional. And I would like to point out that Tom went shopping at Giant Food, which sells the Primal Kitchen brand avocado mayonnaise for $11.19. However, Giant offered other options. He could have purchased the same brand in a smaller jar for $9.79, this 22-ounce squeeze bottle for $5.99, or this 11.5-ounce squeeze bottle on sale for $3.99. But instead, Tom purchased the second most expensive avocado mayo in the store because, you know why.
HHS insists this is standard recipe costing methodology.
But HHS is exactly right here. You take the total cost of an ingredient, divide it by the total yield, and multiply it by the amount used in your specific recipe. Recipe costing methodology is how every restaurant, bakery, and meal prep service on Earth figures out their prices. And that makes sense, considering that Kennedy is using professional chefs like Andrew Gruel and Jeffrey Zarkarian.
And they want to help Americans stock up on high-quality ingredients they can use across many meals.
Which is precisely why you don't bill an entire grocery run to a single plate of food. Those high-quality ingredients are going to feed you for the rest of the week and beyond.
But while the show repeatedly says this dish will cost less than $20 to feed a family of 4, just getting all those ingredients into our kitchen cost a whopping $70.54.
But you aren't supposed to bill your entire pantry restock to one dinner. And just about everything on this receipt can be used for future meals. Well, almost everything. Tom lives in Bethesda, Maryland, and Montgomery County has a bring your own bag law. Tom's bill would have been cheaper, but he included the 10-cent paper bag tax in the total. Unless Tom plans on serving it up as a side dish, I'm pretty sure that paper bags aren't a food expense.
Yes, it certainly is tasty and it appears healthy.
Appears healthy? Tom, you literally just spent an entire segment showing us the ingredients to this meal. Salmon, eggs, vegetables. Seriously, what do you mean appears healthy? Are you waiting for lab results or something?
Problem remains. I do not see, having made this, how you can walk into a grocery store with $20 and come out with everything you need for this, making that part of the claim for many consumers, I think, very hard to swallow.
But here's the thing. The Real Food video never claimed that you could walk into a grocery store with a $20 bill and buy bottles of olive oil, entire jars of avocado mayo, a carton of eggs, and 1.5 pounds of salmon, and then get cash back. Because again, the show's premise was explicitly about the total cost per serving. Tom Foreman invented a completely different standard, applied it to the Real Food show, and then declared the show a failure for not meeting a standard that it never set in the first place. So it turns out that Tom Foreman missed something that actually matters, because while his math was completely unhinged, it turns out that the Real Food show's numbers regarding the main ingredient isn't exactly perfect either. Now remember, the show's premise is that everything on this plate is supposed to come in at under $5. That includes the sockeye salmon needed for the salmon cakes. The recipe on hhs.gov states that the recipe for 4 people calls for 1.5 pounds of frozen wild salmon pieces. So that means that for the sockeye salmon to come in at $8.99 per 4 servings, that it would have to cost, at most, $5.99 a pound. But in my own research, I found sockeye salmon at Costco for $13.99 a pound, and I also found sockeye salmon at Aldi for the same price. And at $13.99 a pound, that would bring the cost of 1.5 pounds of sockeye salmon to $20.99, which is more than double the price quoted on the Real Food show. Now, I reached out to Chef Andrew Gruel asking for clarification. I mean, just because I couldn't find sockeye salmon for $5.99 a pound doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right? Well, he never got back to me. Womp womp. Now, before I get people in the comments pointing out that Walmart sells frozen salmon fillets for around $5.73 a pound, pink salmon is not sockeye salmon. Now, you can totally use pink salmon to make salmon cakes, but that's gonna have a slightly different taste, and that's fine. In fact, to make seafood cakes, you don't even have to use fresh or frozen salmon.
You can even buy this in the can, or you don't even have to use salmon. You can use any other seafood. You can use shrimp, sablefish, black cod. I mean, any other type of American caught seafood, and you're still gonna be able to utilize this recipe.
So you don't have to use sockeye salmon to make these seafood cakes, and that's great. But as far as the exact plate of food they showed on screen, that under $5 per serving claim isn't accurate. Now, of course, prices in your area may vary, but based on my research, the average price of fresh, frozen, or previously frozen sockeye salmon nationwide is $13.99 a pound, which would raise the cost of the 1.5 pounds of sockeye salmon needed for this recipe from $8.99 to $20.99, which raises the total cost of the featured meal from $4.91 per serving to $7.91. And I'm not trying to shit on the Real Food Show. It's very well produced. It's entertaining and informative. But people are going to go out and purchase sockeye salmon and realize that the price per serving is very different than what the show is leading them to believe. And that's something that Tom Foreman, CNN reporter, completely missed. All because he was too busy trying to figure out how to expense an $11 bottle of mayonnaise to a single family dinner. He was so excited to say, I had to spend $70 at the grocery store to make this $5 meal, that it didn't occur to him that if you spent $24 on salmon, then it would raise the serving cost above the $5 limit. CNN was so desperate to manufacture a problem with the recipe that they accidentally stepped right over the real one. Great job, fake news. Anyway, that's it for now. Head on over to my super cool merch store at don'twalkrun.shop. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time, if there is next time.